we gotta throw away some garbage, Francesca. Who would you like to throw in the can?
Okay, so mine, I'm like teetering the entire DNC over the can. Hang on.
Yes.
I'm not throwing them in yet because there's still a few hours to change course on this. But as we know, the DNC has refused to allow a Palestinian speaker on stage despite numerous calls from the Uncommitted Movement, which again is more than 700,000 voters from across the country. But even more than that, when you consider how many people were there, an uncommitted box would have checked it, specifically around Biden's handling of the Gaza war, right? And the ongoing genocide. And so the ask has been from the Uncommitted Movement and the delegates who have absolutely gone through the formal processes, have had multiple names vetted, are open, of course, to having every single word that person might utter be vetted, are saying put a Palestinian-American, a voter, a Muslim up on stage to really to talk about the experience. Because yes, there was a family member of a hostage, an Israeli hostage, who was also on stage over the course of the past few days. And that is without having someone representing the 40,000 lives cut down by Israel with the money and the assistance and the military support of the United States. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, who is this for?
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
There are far more people who believe in a ceasefire and an arms embargo in the Democratic base then there are people who are like, no, I think we should, no, and endless blank check, blank check, blank check, like no. So that's my garbage person is the DNC, probably Kamala by extension because of it. There is a way to do this. There's no way a Palestinian speaker is gonna, burn it all to the ground, right? But they're going to center the importance of the victims, Israeli victims, but Palestinian victims as well. And that would mean so much to voters in swing states, but also voters like myself, people who wanna see that Kamala Harris is a candidate who's not just listening, not just sees us, but who's going to do something, is gonna put some action behind that. And having a Palestinian speaker would be the difference. And actually, AOC has said there should be a Palestinian speaker. The DNC, in response to the DNC saying they wouldn't allow one. Ilhan Omar has said there should be one. And then just today, the UAW is also backing a Palestinian speaker to address the convention. And I think the convention would love it. Like I truly think some of the biggest applause lines have been for ceasefire. So I don't think this is going to be out of place in this convention.
Yeah, look, on one level, I understand what they're thinking probably is. I think they want to acknowledge it, partially because I think a lot of people, as you say, a lot of people in the crowd do want a ceasefire. They do want an end to it. I don't know if many of them necessarily have it as one of their most important issues, but certainly not the leadership who's setting up the DNC, but they want to acknowledge it, but they also want it to be sort of like arm's reach, abstract, acknowledge the ceasefire, don't acknowledge the reality on the ground, don't acknowledge the severity of what's happened. Like, don't get into the weeds, don't be detailed. That's sort of what it feels like.
Right.
And obviously, whoever this speaker would be would do that. And by the way, I know some will be like, well, they're not gonna let some crazy on there. It's stupid of you to think that they would. The Uncommitted Movement is not like plucking some random person who scrawled a sign with crayon to throw them up there. They put speakers forward. There was a doctor, I think, that was put forward.
Yes.
So these are people with experience both on the topic, but also in public speaking, who, again, as you said, are not going to start throwing firecrackers into the crowd or something like that's not going to happen. And we have
the last thing. Go ahead.
Sorry, what was that?
Well, I was just going to say that it is really striking because in a Chicago suburb, on October 16th or 15th, Wadia Al-Fayoume was stabbed. A 6-year-old was stabbed to death by his landlord because his landlord hated Palestinians, even though they were friends, thought Palestinians were terrorists, Palestinians are terrible, was listening to Fox News and mainlining all of that racist crap. And a kid died just miles away from the convention center. And we have to ask ourselves, were this any other child, were this child a different religion, a different race, a different ethnicity, would we not speak of that child? Would we not center that child? Would we not ask maybe the child's mother to speak, right? Like, so this is the kind of thing that we have to remember when you try to say, nah, later. Would we do this for any other group other than Palestinians and Muslims, the last bastion of who we can openly discriminate against?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And Octo Squiddies in the chat says, if only there was a US representative with Palestinian heritage. It would be great if they were a Democrat too, just can't think of any. And yeah, of course, they're not gonna let Rashida Tlaib speak. They're not gonna let Tlaib, Omar's not gonna speak either. Like, basically anyone who's been super outspoken, let alone being Palestinian, is probably not gonna speak. I mean, even of the people who have referenced it, like AOC referenced it, and she's been criticized for what many people see as, at the very least, highly exaggerating what Kamala Harris is doing to bring about a ceasefire. Even Representative Omar criticized AOC without being specific about it for that. And so, yeah, there should be something. Like, it's a very important issue to a lot of people and from groups that the Democrats would like to vote for them. I think that there is a feeling that we're cruising right now, things are going well. Let's just not let anything happen that can become a new narrative. And I think that they have a few things that they think could create that obstacle. And this, I think, is what they see as one of the main ones. Like, they've apparently offered to have some sort of private meeting with the Uncommitted Movement. Now, like, I might think, well, what if Harris was to just go to one of the sit-ins and talk? But they probably see that could turn into something terrible if people yell, because look, there are going to be some people who don't just want to be heard, obviously, or they're gonna want, things to be resolved immediately. But I think that they're trying to clamp this down, and they think that's their best path. And I don't think it looks nearly as good as they think it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And last thing I'm gonna say is, I think it's really important for us to understand that, like, there is no ceasefire deal on the table that's actually being seriously entertained by Netanyahu. It's been, Blinken's has visited 9 times. He's gone to Israel. Every time we're on the precipice of getting a ceasefire, it's not actually happening, guys. And so the line working so hard to do a ceasefire, get a ceasefire done, nothing has budged. We are actually farther away from a ceasefire than we were, let's say, back in November. Hey, when there was an actual ceasefire, again, that was brokered by Qatar. So, like, what are we talking about? It truly is just, I need to understand, it's something to just tell Democrats to make them feel better about themselves. But on the ground, we're still seeing the images. Children are still being bombed. Another school was just bombed yesterday. So, like, where does it end? Every single day counts.
Yeah, and it's not like neither the situation is just inevitably getting better, nor is our involvement inevitably getting less involved. It was just a little bit ago that we approved $20 billion more.
Right.
And that was since she became the nominee. And again, her becoming the nominee doesn't mean that she's in charge, but she's still part of the ticket. Maybe take Joe aside and be like, what the hell are you doing, you dumb donkey? I'm trying to win this thing. So, it doesn't seem as if she's working tirelessly.
I told him, I said, what are you doing, you dumb donkey, okay? I'm trying to do.
That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Just laugh after she says it.
100%. Well, anyway, great garbage person. I now have a garbage. This is my DNC garbage. It's a relative of Soroskus. But anyway, I gave my runner-up garbage person of the week, and that would be whoever does the credentialing for the creator program, because Francesca should be sitting with me.
Thank you.
You doinks, how are you gonna deny her? You did a special on MSNBC. You worked for AJ Plus. You run a very well-respected podcast. You're a comedian. You're a responsible professional person. You should be here right now.
Did you hear what I just said, though? I think all of what I just said probably disqualifies me.
True.
But yeah.
That's probably true. I might be dragged away for allowing it to be said on the show. But anyway. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.